Money, money, money.
Money.
Shmoney. It's time that shmoney dance. Kev, you know about that, Kev. I think Matt's trying to get on that shmoney dance.
Hey man, my man is over 50%. Let's
That's
go.
right. That's right. 9-8. Well, 9-8. Matt, you start kind of a little slow, but then you always get to where you need to be.
4 and 2
Welcome
weeks.
to another episode, Fade the Duce, Season 2, Episode 4. I know you guys were waiting on your edge of your seat. There's nothing really important going on tonight, so this works out. Just a normal Tuesday. So. But before we get to it, I know it's not about it. How about those Illini fellas? Just real quick. How about them?
Xavier Scott, Defensive Player of the Week is really pretty cool. Sounds like we got another good crowd coming back this week. Huge win. Put the program on the map. They're talking about us. I mean, I think there was the Friday show on Big Ten today. Last week they didn't even mention our game. Now we're front and center. We're being talked about. That's why that game is important. It's about relevance, right? And you stay relevant. This week's going to be important. I would caution Illinois fans: do not put too much into the number 52-16 of the FIU Central Michigan game. I believe that's a little bit of a fluke. I think it's a better team than we think that's coming in. I'm not saying I think that Illinois is going to lose. I think that that number 20 is a little bit too big as we talk about a show about the numbers. So just my thoughts.
And real quick, Matt, what a game for you to pick to come back, huh?
Man, it was perfect day. You're low 70s, high 60s, not a cloud in the sky. I mean, people got to tailgate all day, got to see a bunch of family and friends, and then my wife's sister came along with, and she had never been to a college football game before.
And the atmosphere, whew!
She loved it. She couldn't believe it. She's trying to get her daughter, who wants to go to the University of North Texas, to come to the University of Illinois now. Like that. So we had a great time, and man, I'm so glad I could be there to witness it.
I will tell you, that was the loudest that I've ever heard Memorial Stadium. And I know, Kev, I wasn't there in the 80s and early 90s, but I'm just telling you.
It's not the same place, though. So, it probably was the loudest it's been since the major modifications. And I'm so jealous, Matt, that's the game you got to go to, because I'm going, like October 19th. And, I mean, that game's got its own lure and its own special things. But I just know it's going to be one of those it's going to be like Purdue, 42 and 48 mile an hour winds.
Yeah. Get ready.
Oh, man. All right. Well,
I'm going to leave like 80-degree Oklahoma for 41-degree Illinois.
Yeah, but you know what? We never know. Might get in the 50s that day.
What's up, Josh? Good to see you, homeboy.
Yeah, what's up, Josh? I. All right, so we're going to start out in the new look Big 12, a top 20 tussle. We got number 20 Arizona at Kansas State. Matt McCumber's favorite school, not named Illinois.
Right.
So in the little Big Apple, here's the thing. Arizona, not really been super impressive so far. Kind of struggle with New Mexico in week 1. Defense, not really existent. And I think New Mexico is a different team now with Bronco Mendenhall. But let's be honest. You lose at home to Montana State, and they gave up 35 points. So Arizona putting up 49, 50 or whatever on them, and we didn't really do anything for me.
61.
But still, New Mexico showed there's some big holes in Arizona's defense. That's going to be tough going to Manhattan against Kansas State, who's coming off a huge win against a very good Tulane team down there in Nolens. I actually watched a lot of that game.
It was a fun game.
It was a great game. Tulane could have easily won the game, but Kansas State used their grit and toughness that just you assume that Kansas State would win a game like that. So Kansas State, 7.5-point favorite at home. We'll start with you, Matt.
Yeah, and I would even go as far as saying both teams have kind of underperformed to the state. Now, yes, K-State's had a tougher road. They get a true road game, as you mentioned, at Tulane. Really had to grit that out. They were down at halftime, had to come back in the second half. And really, I mean, there was a pass interference call at the end that got called on Tulane. And if it wasn't for that, we probably would have been headed to overtime. But I'm looking at this as Kansas State's running game versus Arizona's dynamic pass. McMillan, the wide receiver for Arizona, first week went for over 300 yards and 4 TDs on 10 catches. I watched all that game because I had the over, and I'm glad I did. He was unstoppable, and then he came back and followed it up with kind of a stinker last week. Didn't do too much, wasn't really involved. But can Kansas State's secondary stop him? And then can Arizona's front seven stop the run game of Kansas State with Avery Johnson? We got 2 sophomore quarterbacks here. So not a ton of experience, but they've already played in big games. And you got J.R. Giddens, who is a rushing fool. I think 6 straight 100-yard rushing games for Kansas State, which is very, very hard to do, especially in the Big 12. That dates back to Big 12 games. And by the way, this is not counting as a Big 12 game, because this was a home and home that was scheduled before Arizona was in the Big 12. So a little interesting wrinkle here.
Wow.
Not gonna count as a conference game.
What?
But, yes, I know, crazy. So
it's not the first time something like this has happened. I know that this has happened before, specifically in college basketball, but a little odd in football.
It's odd in football, correct. You know, these schedules sometimes 7-10 years out. But I digress. This is a tough one. I'm going to take the Arizona Wildcats on the road plus 7.5. I think Kansas State wins the game. I think it's going to be a shootout at times, back and forth. I think their offense is good enough to keep up with Kansas State here. And they're 5-0 the last 5 games against the spread when they're at least a 7-point underdog. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Arizona Wildcats in Manhattan plus 7.5 for 0.5 units.
Okay. Kev?
What do I always say about this show? We take the games that matters, not the games that I'm rushing to the window to buy, right? What I'm doing here is I'm taking an underdog plus a touchdown that, just like Matt has said, has been an underdog darling. They love covering as underdogs. They did it all last season. But they have a really dynamic offense that's going to keep them in every game. I can't say McMillan's first name. I don't even Tatiana McMillan. But Arizona's quarterback is phenomenal as well, Fafita. I just think that 7.5 points is too much. And especially when you're playing against a team that values the pass as much as Arizona does. And Tulane went and threw for like 340 yards on Kansas State last week. Yes. I think probably a better play for this, if I was really rushing to the window and I didn't do it with this one, might be the over of 58.5. Just because Arizona's offense is so explosive. And granted, Arizona lost their head coach. He's in Washington now, right?
Yes.
Doing a fine job there. We'll talk about him.
Jed Fish.
Yeah, Jed Fish. Yeah, sorry. It's just too much for me to give up to that high-powered offense, especially when I saw Kansas State be a little bit leaky on offense this past week. I do believe that Kansas State is going to impose their will physically. They're one of the teams I really respect in college football. Is like, you just always know what you're going to get. You're going to get a strong physical team. You're going to know that you played them. But give me Arizona with like a backdoor cover late, something like 34-30. I think with 34-31, 58.5 is the over/under. That's probably the smarter play. But here I'm just going to take Arizona plus the 7.5.
And
by the way, did you guys go over your units or?
Yeah,
I did a half. So I'm up 4. Matt's down 1.5. I've been really hot on my locks, and it's bailed me out. It's so the locks are so huge in this. So
to Kev's point on the defense, that giving up those passing yards. Every drop back for Tulane last week accounted for 10 yards on average. So, and that every single time, even on incompletions, they average 10 yards per play on a drop back. So that gets Fafita and Arizona's offense. I'm taking that all day.
Okay. So our guest picker is Rob. He's one of my coworkers. He's a big time like I said, loves the wagering podcasts. He actually is starting to like this one. And I told him, I said, just give Matt a few weeks and his locks, he'll take it to the window. A happy payday. He's got, and I'm just giving you crap, Matt. He's got Kansas State he's got Kansas State covering, so
Okay.
he thinks they're going to cover against Arizona. I don't know if he's saying it's 7, and I think it's 7.5, but I don't know if he's saying he took it. Was it 7 at one point?
It might have been. I use scores and odds for just a heads up. This is something every gambling podcast should talk to you about. I use the consensus on scoresandodds.com for the show.
Okay.
I will tell you this. There's been some initial ones where I've sent them to Matt and Ryan where I just use ESPN because of the ease. But when I get into when we start getting into what we're talking about, I use scores and odds because some places will have different numbers. Circa came out last week as Illinois +3. And everywhere else was 7 and a hook, and then it got bet down to 6.5 or 5.5. 6.5, and they got bet down to 5. So different books are going to give you different things. 7's a reasonable number here.
Okay.
But I was originally on our text thread, guys. I was originally on this for a unit. I backed this down to a half a unit. So just a heads up on that, and I've sent that in our thread. So
okay. So Rob's got Kansas State though. He thinks they're gonna cover.
Bad pick. I'm not against it. Matt and I both on a half unit. I don't think either one of us are really excited about Arizona +7.5 here.
Okay. Yeah. And even though he's not, our guest pickers aren't units. He told me a full unit, so he's
on everything.
Yeah, full unit on everything. So he's pretty confident. I guarantee you, he listened to about 5 podcasts before he made these picks, and he's a driver for one of my job, so he's on the road all day, so he's got time to do that. Now, so the next game on our docket is Bama going to Madison to take on the Badgers. Now, both teams really, last week, man, I know Alabama finished strong, but South Florida for the second year in a row gave Bama fits. And that's, to me, saying all kinds of things about what Alex Golish is doing at South Florida. I think he's doing a great job with that program. I've mentioned that I think USF is going to be an 8-9 win team this year, and they're going to be one of those group of 5 teams you better watch out for coming forward. Now, Bama didn't look great, but they finished it off, and then Wisconsin just is kind of, just ho-humming through their little kind of win by 14 against Western Michigan, whatever against South Dakota. We don't really have to give a whole full effort, It's just that doesn't excite you going into against Bama. Even at home, that's not going to save you. So, Kev, we'll start with you. 15.5 point spread here. Do you think Jalen Milroe gets his mojo going and flowing? And are they going to be jumping around head into the fourth quarter?
I think so. I think that this is, and Wisconsin has done this in the past. I think remember LSU coming in there a few years ago. Might have beat them, give them everything that they actually did beat them. It was the year that Illinois, I think it was the year that Illinois beat Wisconsin. They beat LSU that season in Madison. This is a game that's a little weird for me, right?
I think that game was actually in Lambeau Field, but anyway.
Hey, fair enough. It's still a Wisconsin home crowd, right? I'm sure they've still.
I know. I was just saying.
Right.
Okay.
It's not like Lambeau's going to be any less of a home field advantage. It's like LSU playing in New Orleans. Like, stop it. That's a home field, right? This is interesting because I think that this Alabama team would be the perfect team to be got by a traditional Wisconsin team. This is the perfect Alabama structure, wide open offense. The defense is solid. They got a lot of athletes, but you could wear them down with the old school I formation, big linemen grind it out. And that's probably but I'm sorry, I don't think that this Alabama team or this Wisconsin, I don't think this Wisconsin team's built now to beat this Alabama team. They kind of are running in similar circles here. So you got to take the better athletes, but 16 and a hook is too much on the road where those Wisconsin, Madison's going to be a madhouse. They're super excited to have this game. And by the way, why isn't game day there? Why? I mean, I know there's not great games this week, and Arizona, Kansas State is probably the best game on the schedule. If not, it's Boston College, Missouri.
And that's a Friday night game too.
Right. That's the challenge. It's a Friday night game. It's certainly not the week that you go to South Carolina for LSU, South Carolina, 2 non-ranked teams. I don't get it, but I think Madison's still going to have they're going to have a madhouse. I don't know, is big noon kickoff there.
Big noon kickoff is there. Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson are on the call for that game.
And one of the things that stands out to me is that Alabama scoreboard watchers can go look at it, and this is DeBoer is different than Nick Saban. Let's just say this. I talked about this on the show. Nick Saban would call off the dogs a little bit. Kellen DeBoer's not really doing. I mean, they hung 28 in the fourth quarter against South Florida. Now, granted, it was still somewhat of a game. I think Wisconsin can hang around enough to keep this close. I think this ends up being like 34-20 Bama.
Okay. So you've got Wisconsin covering. All right, Matt.
I got a half a unit on that. I'm not thrilled about this bet.
Yeah. Well, I like a lot of things that Kev said. I mean, you look at it on paper, and I mean, you can't compare Alabama's athletes to Wisconsin, and I mean, it's just not a fair fight. But games aren't played on paper. And to Kev's point, this is Wisconsin's Super Bowl. They will show out like it's the biggest game of the year, which it is. And, people are going to be there. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be ready. I think the crowd will help Wisconsin at the beginning. I don't think Wisconsin has been impressive at all. To Ryan's point, 2 14-point wins, and it's just a ho-hum. Let's get in, do our work. Nothing spectacular. Hey, we win the game.
Right. Yeah. And one of those 14-point wins were like, is Western Michigan good? Ohio State certainly said they were not.
Yep.
I look in games like this, you got the quarterback Milroe versus Van Dyke. I mean, there's no question it's Milroe.
Yeah.
But it's Wisconsin football. They will find a way to run that clock. They'll run the ball. They might not, put consecutive 4 or 5, 6 first downs together, but 2 or 3, they'll punt it, and then they'll rely on their defense. And I'm with Kev here all along. 2 touchdowns at home, an opponent. I'm not buying it. I think Wisconsin will slow it down. Give me the Badgers at home, plus 15.5. And like Kev said, I bet it'll be about a 38 to 21. Well, that wouldn't get the spread, but 38-24, something like that. 34-20. Badgers cover.
I'm talking. I'm hearing us talk, Matt, and I know we both went that way. I am not in compliance with my own pick here. I said it. I gave it. It's too late. I can't backtrack on it. But, man, I don't feel good about it at all. Dude,
yeah, I'm happy.
Wisconsin beat Western Michigan, 28-14, got the benefit of a muffed punt to win by 2 touchdowns. Western Michigan followed that up the next week. Now, granted, they might have been banged up, and they were outgained by Ohio State by 500 yards. I'm sorry. It wasn't 500. It was 484 yards.
Why is it too late to move your pick? There's not this isn't.
Because I said it. I felt like since I said it, I called it.
This isn't you want to be a millionaire. It's not like you're locked in.
I'm going with Bama. You're going to let me reverse course?
Yeah.
I'm going with Bama. Wisconsin hasn't scored. They haven't scored 4 touchdowns. They've scored 28 and 27 against garbage teams. Alabama's not going to let them score. That's going to be they're going to shut the house down, 31-7, something like that. I'm flipping. I'm going with Bama.
Okay, Matt, you good with your pick?
I'm staying with the Badgers.
Okay.
The Badgers. Bacon's telling me not to do it. I don't care. I'm going with Alabama.
I was going to say, going forward, everybody watching, you two, you only cannot reverse once we went to the new subject, you guys, okay?
All right. Well, fair enough. Last week I was really, really mad at my NC State pick over Tennessee, and I actually went to the window for Tennessee. So I was like, nope, that's not the right pick. I was wrong. I started doing some more research on it. I was like, no, I don't like this at all.
Oh, man. So what I would say, Rob's in total agreement with you, Kev. He's got Bama. He said just too much. Just too much Bama. Wisconsin's not been impressive enough. While I will say Bama has not been super impressive, better athletes. I think, and I'm not going to say better coach. I mean, Fickle's a good coach. DeBoer's a good coach. There's been nothing that says Wisconsin putting up more than 14 to 17 in this game. So
Wisconsin is an incongruent football team right now. They don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And while Alabama is dealing with a little bit of that, I love what Matt said. They got the quarterback. They know who that guy is. They know who that guy is. He's going to be the best athlete on the field, and their defense is still really damn good. They've got a lot of talent on that defense, a lot of athletes. I'm not a believer in Van Dyke. He's going to have to play out of his mind. And if he does, I think it'll be good for the Big Ten.
You know, this next one's interesting, but the spread. I mean, look, I know Missouri's been playing well and they look great, but they really haven't played anybody as of yet. Boston College, well, is Florida State any good? Well, I know they went on the road and dominated in Tallahassee. So Boston College, 17-point dog in Columbia. So this one to me is interesting, because Boston College has shown competency with Bill O'Brien. We talked about that a lot on the Mike Farrell podcast, Outside the Gridiron. We actually had a nice 10-minute long dialogue about how, the season was supposed to be all about FSU and, Boston College flipped it around. And now you're getting to see what coaching really can do for a team when they have a competent guy. And now Boston College is ranked. And they've shown that they've got athletes on the defense. They have an identity on offense, okay, which is good to have, because if you don't have an identity, you can be real lost, like you were just talking about with Wisconsin. So 17 on the road, Boston College is a dog. Do you see any way that Boston College can cover that? And we'll start with Kev, I believe. Yep, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're
starting with you, Kev. Yep.
It doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Okay. So Missouri's giving 17 points at home to a scrappy, clawy, fighty, pretty decent Boston College team. Just like you said, well coached by Bill O'Brien. Missouri has still a ton of talent, right? Especially on the edges. Luther Burden is the third, is probably a top 5 draft pick, depending on where things slot. He could be the number 1 overall draft pick. He's a highly talented wide receiver out of St. Louis. We were in on for a little bit, but probably out a little bit over our skis, especially at that time from a money standpoint, trying to get him in-house. This is a situation where I physically will never bet on the Missouri Tigers. I will not choose to vote for them. It's Misery is spelled Misery. I hate them. I cannot stand them. I will not choose them on this show, but I do think they will cover this spread. So because I cannot choose them, I have to go an alternate route. And this is one of the things that I'm moving around here. And Matt, you can finalize with me for our spreadsheet here. I'm going to change the Zona pick from a full unit to a half unit, and I'm going to take under 54 points here in this game. All right. Missouri hasn't allowed a point all year. Mm-hmm. O'Brien knows the only way to win this game. Now, granted, they played Buffalo and somebody else, right? Bill O'Brien.
Murray State.
Fair enough. But Bill O'Brien knows the only way for Boston College to stay in this game is to be kind of like what Illinois did with Kansas, try to control the line of scrimmage. I don't know that that's going to work that well, but I think it'll work for a while, and I think for it worked well enough, I see this game being something like 31-10. 34-10, 37-10, still get me way under. 37-14 gets me under. I got 54 points. Give me a full unit on the under Boston College Missouri.
All right, Matt. What you on board with Kev or?
I absolutely love this play for Boston College because I love their team and their toughness. And they've already taken the toughness of their head coach and Bill O'Brien. I mean, you think – I don't think he got hired until February 9th of the coaching carousel cycle and what he's been able to do with a true road win at Florida State. And it wasn't close. I mean,
no, it wasn't.
They absolutely imposed their will on him. And now Florida State might not be good, but, hey, a win's a win on the road like that. And this team already believes. They know they can go on the road and get these types of wins. They might not win this game, but 17 points, 2 touchdowns and a field goal, they're in the top 10 in rushing offense. They're 9th in the country after 2 games. They're in the top 10 and rushing defense at number, I think, six or seven. And their front seven is very good. Missouri's going to have to pass, which they obviously have the athletes with Bird and a couple other wide receivers. And Brady Cook's very good quarterback. No problem with that. But I think their defense is stingy enough. They're tough enough to keep this underneath the number of 17. I feel good about Bill O'Brien and the coach and the trajectory of this program. So I'm riding with the Eagles here.
And I apologize earlier. I was saying Bill Belichick. I meant Bill O'Brien.
I didn't hear you say it. I knew you were saying Bill O'Brien. Okay. And everything you said, like we are in complete alignment, I think, on the under, correct?
Yeah, I would think so. I think it's going to be a surprise knock 'em out fight in the first half. Because Castellanos, they run that option with him a lot, some misdirection. I think they're going to keep this clock moving. Now, Missouri likes to get up and down and score and throw it around, but if Boston College gets the ball, I think it's going to be a little bit slower pace.
It's just one of those ones that stands out to me is like, as I started to do my research, I put the pick in initially. A lot of times I just trust my gut, just being honest with guys. As Missouri has this thought of Missouri as this wide open offense, and a lot of the reasons why we think of that is we remember the game back and forth against LSU last year with Jalen Daniels was one of the most entertaining finishes of any college football game I've ever seen. And we think that Missouri is just like some flashy superstar offense, and really a lot of that's Burden. He is incredible. It's a really good defense. And this should be a bet. I'm with you, man. I would lean taking Boston College on the points here. I just thought taking the under was too good to be true, so I'm on that.
Okay, and mine was 0.5 units. Boston College plus 17.
Rob feels pretty confident in Mizzou covering 17. So he put a vomiting face next to it, maybe because it's Mizzou.
Yeah, he did not like making that.
Yeah, I thought it was a hard choice for him, like the line. But more that I look at it, he's talking about Mizzou. He's vomiting that he's picking Mizzou. Okay.
There's also Theo Weiss on the outside from Missouri as well. Was at Oklahoma for a few years. Really good. They got some talented wideouts, man. That might be a fun game to watch, especially because I got a ton of rooting interest. Go Boston College.
Yeah.
I'm glad I never had to be a part of it, but we are going to be talking and entering the Civil War next, you guys. Is that in Eugene or is that in Corvallis?
That's in Corvallis.
Okay, and it's 16.5 still?
Yes.
What
are the lines smoking now? I mean, what?
Open at 20.5.
My gosh, is Oregon State that bad all of a sudden? What?
I really don't think so, and I don't see it. I memean, maybe this is a trap line from Vegas. I'm always leery about stuff like that, but like as to Kev's point, it's gone down. I just in my right mind can't take a team that is basically out there floating around with no conference, thinking they've been done wrong by the whole Pac-12, and they get to go up against their main in-state rival here, and it's over two touchdown, range here. I'm just not buying it.
And it's not like Oregon's like all of a sudden just knows who they are, right? They're not just hitting on all cylinders.
Exactly. I mean, they got Dylan Gabriel back there. Yes. I mean, Heisman candidate. I think he had 243 yards, 2 TDs last week. He was 18 and 21. Very efficient offense, very effective, but it's not yet the Oregon that we're used to seeing where they're going out scoring 50 points, 50, 60. They should have lost the game last weekend, to be quite frank with you, against Boise State.
A punt return and a kick return is the only reason they won the game.
Exactly. And they gave up over 200 yards to Boise State running back, who's
special.
He's special, but still.
Probably be a top 5 Heisman candidate.
I think so too.
Yeah. Genty, I think. But Oregon State's got their own decent quarterback. You got a guy, McCoy. He had 283 yards last week. Threw it around, I think, 36 attempts, 2 TDs. He can play. I don't see it.
And I know sometimes it's like with the lines can be so glaring. I know you both have said it. There's a reason that it's like, what do they know, right? Well, I know this. I know that line was pretty big against Boise last week.
Exactly. Yep.
And it didn't work out well.
No, and a true road game here, the first true road game for Oregon on the season, 16.5, way too many for me. I'm taking Oregon State.
Okay.
I'm on it too, and here's some reasons why. In 2 games against Idaho and Boise State. Now, Boise State's a pretty good team, but Boise State's always known for a little bit more of an offensive than a defensive juggernaut in their history. They really like Jets. Boise the week before gave up 30 some odd points, and Oregon only managed 30 points with 14 of it coming on special teams. Oregon has given up 7 sacks in 2 weeks. 7 sacks. You know how many times Bo Nix was sacked last year in 14 games?
3.
5.
Okay.
5. They gave up 4 sacks last week to Boise State. They have offensive line problems, guys. They are missing, what's his name, Jackson Powers, whatever. The center. Oregon has offensive line problems. You are going to give me over 2 touchdowns in a rivalry game to one of the most disrespected teams in America that's left, the Tupac, that's left without a conference.
Yeah.
And listen, Oregon State, granted, their coach is at Michigan State now. Dude, that was a really good football team last year. That was a real. We were taking Oregon State games late and fade to Duce last year because they were always ranked. It's a really good football team. It's not like they lost all their talent there. Something is broken right now with the Oregon offense. Oregon State at home, that crowd. Hey, kudos to college football. Okay, kudos to the fact that the Civil War is being played. And then we're going to talk about the Apple Cup next. But kudos that this game is being played this week. We've got a lot of rivalry games being played early in the season, despite the conference realignments, which I really credit the schools. Hey, by the way, Oklahoma State, take note. Man up.
Yeah, for real. Like that's so wild, man.
Right, man up and do this. But I can't give more than 2 touchdowns in this game. Yeah. Oregon State's a competitive football team. Corvallis, like I said, is going to be insane. Give me the Beavers here, and maybe a little sprinkle on the money line.
These are games where I go to the window and I take Oregon State plus 16.5 and I lose. I do a tip of the cap to Oregon, and I don't think about it because I know in my heart of hearts that it's just too many points in a rivalry game. Not doing it.
It's also one of those ones where you do like, hey, I'll throw $20 on Oregon State money line. I win 110, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Rob agrees with you both on Oregon State plus 16 is what he's got here. So yeah, and then we'll move on to one more rivalry before we get to your locks, and that is the Apple Cup. Washington State and Washington. Is this one in Pullman or in Seattle?
It's in Seattle.
Yeah.
It's in Seattle. Okay, so Washington's a 4.5-point favorite at home against.
It's actually at Lumen Field.
Oh, it's okay.
So it's where the Seahawks play.
Correct.
I like that. They're doing the whole if they're going to play each other and they're not in conference, play it on a neutral field.
Yeah, so play it 11 minutes away from from Washington's home field, and 3 hours and 38 minutes away from Washington State's home field, as opposed to 3 hours and 43 minutes. Okay, cool.
It makes sense. Totally. That sounds like how it would work in Seattle-ish area.
It's like Northwestern playing a neutral site against Illinois this year. It actually would be a home field for Illinois. Let's be real.
I was about to say, come on, man. Yeah,
but from a pure distance standpoint for the fan bases, it's literally. I mean, it's if you've ever been there, they're 20 minutes apart. I mean, it's not far at all.
Too, and if you think about like Wazoo, man, they always get treated like little brother up there so bad. Like, whose athletic director would leave their school to go be the other school, your rival? I mean, I get it. They're going to the Big Ten. I know. I mean, I get it to a degree why he left, but the dude went to Washington State, was the Washington State AD who hired Mike Leach, and then when Washington's going to the Big Ten, he's like, "Toodles, I'm going to Seattle." Like, that's just some. I can't get over that. But Washington State. So Washington's a 4.5 point favorite on a neutral site where the Seattle Seahawks play. We'll start with Matt. You went last, right? And now Kev. Back to Kev. Yep.
I think it's Matt going first, isn't it?
Matt, didn't you go first in Oregon State?
I did, but I can.
Okay,
no, that's fine. I'll go. Yeah, hey, listen. Once again, kudos to college football. Kudos to these universities for playing this game. This game should always be played every year. Hey, listen, guys. Both these teams a little bit better than what I expected coming into the year. Fish has got those Huskies playing some ball, and Washington State's been pretty effective so far. Washington State runs the ball really well. They just put it on Texas Tech pretty soundly. And they threw for 343 yards. They've got a quarterback who runs and throws. What's his name again? Mateer. John Mateer.
Ward.
So, like, it's going to be – yeah, they ran for 300 yards on A&M. I mean, on Texas Tech, excuse me. They put up 70 against Portland State. That's not saying much, but Washington's defense has been really solid. I'm sitting here talking myself into an under 55.5 here. But it's just one of those games where I'm riding with the home team in a rivalry, right? And I think Fish has something to prove. Washington's defense has been really good. They've given up 12 points all year. Now, granted, they played Eastern Michigan and Weber State. This is a step up in class. I do think Washington State's going to present some problems. I see Washington scoring a touchdown, or I see Washington getting a late score to cover the number. I wish this number was like 2.5. I would be really on Washington if it was 2.5. But at 4.5 still, I'm going to take the home team. It's just a home team situation. And by the way, for our viewers, we know a lot of Illini fans on here. This is the follow-up game on Peacock after the Illini game. By the way, the Illini are on Peacock this week. So we haven't heard the complaints yet, Ryan. We know they're coming. Illinois is on Peacock this week. So here's what I tell the Illinois fans. If you don't have Peacock, take your happy ass and drive yourself to Memorial Stadium and watch the game. So maybe we can get another sellout.
And Peacock, Kevin. I think you just
Peacock.
Yeah.
Give me the Huskies here. And the only reason why I'm riding with it is because they're playing a home game. I think those kids are going to be fired up to be playing in an NFL stadium. I think the defense is pretty good. I think Jed Fish is really good. I think Washington State's better than I think Washington State and Oregon State are better than Cal and Stanford, even though Cal beat Auburn last week. Yeah. At the bar.
You see fans are trying to want their money back from Peyton Thorne. Did you guys see that? They're sending him Venmo money requests for all the money they lost.
I was on Auburn -10 too. What an idiot.
And Paul Feinbaum said would never happen too.
Oh my gosh, man. You know what? Before you make your pick, Feinbaum, all those jokers on game day, just listening to them try and do their analysis on the Illinois-Kansas. Like, the best thing you got to say is that, well, Illinois is in the Big Ten. Is that all you got? That's it? Like,
come on, he's a swimmer, dude. Them guest pickers don't know nothing, man. Come on.
And what did
no shade will be allowed to be thrown at that man for his Olympic gold medals.
McAfee, what McAfee say? Oh yeah, I don't want to be. Give me Kansas. Okay, well, thank you for that, sir.
You know what's shocking to me is like Desmond Howard says he's like it's going to be a low scoring game. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Yeah. He was right.
Nick Saban though is like they're rebuilding. I mean, really, are we? Like, yeah. I don't really think in year 4 we're rebuilding, but. Anyway, I digress. Matt, your pick.
Yeah, shout out Kurt Herbstreit, the only one that got it right. So thanks, Kurt.
Hey, Lee Corso said Illinois was covering.
Okay. But no, I'm with Kev here. You look at what Washington State's body of work today, and they have been pretty impressive. Yes, they haven't played their first game against Portland State. I mean, they put up 70. I'm not counting that, but. They went and beat a Texas Tech team by 21 points. And I don't think Texas Tech is very good this year, but, they crushed them. Wasn't even a game. And you look on the other side, Washington Huskies lost their entire starting offensive line. The guy that basically got second in the Heisman, national championship runner-up, Duce, that is with the Bears now, pick number 9. They lost a ton of production. And at the point, Jed Fish has come in, brought in some transfers with him from Arizona, and has kind of righted the ship. I think they're still trying to get their feet underneath them on the offensive side. But in an NFL stadium in a rivalry game like this, I think they're going to come in and be fired up to play the rival here. And I'm looking at like 27-21, somewhere around there. 25-17, something like that. I'm gonna go Washington. They had to kick a field goal last year late to win the game, to get the national championship game. So they won by 3, but was in Pullman, I think. So they're in Seattle, 4.5. Give me the Huskies, 1 unit.
I'm feeling I'm feeling like we're talking ourselves into some totals here, Matt. If we're listening, like let's be real here. I think that's another under screaming at us right there, buddy.
Yeah, I could see it.
And what's Big Rob got?
Big Rob has. Let me get his unit here. Let's see.
And I'm a half unit on this one. I was a full unit on Oregon State.
Rob has. He's got Washington State covering the covering 4.5. Yep.
Okay.
So he's got Washington. Yeah, he thinks. I mean, I think from what we talked, I think he might pick them outright. So, but yeah, so Washington State there, and then we're gonna move on to our lock. We'll start with Rob's lock. Okay.
Okay.
And I like it. I like it a lot.
He's got South Carolina +7 over LSU. He thinks they could win outright, South Carolina.
They could.
Yeah. So that's his lock.
I like it.
I love taking dogs with game day, even though it's a noon kick. Like if it was a 7 p.m. kick, I would be all over it. You know that. I love the prime time there. I think it's a really good pick from Rob. I think this is a better South Carolina just whooped Kentucky. I mean, they just whooped them.
Yeah.
And that was at Kentucky. I mean, that was surprising. 31-6. So we'll see. Should be an interesting game.
All right, Matt, we'll go to you since we started with are we cool, Kev? We'll go to Matt and then you can finish it off. All right, Matt, your lock. Here we go.
Well, if you're watching the show right now, earmuffs, because I am 3 on the season and my lock. So I would fade myself here. Just a piece of I did go 4-1 on the regular picks last week, so made up some ground, but my locks are lacking. But I'm gonna go to the MAC, and I'm gonna take Buffalo -4.5 against a UMass team that has already played 2 MAC teams and lost by 14 and 15 to respectively to both of them. I think they played maybe Toledo.
Michigan.
Okay, yeah. And so I'm gonna ride this MAC trend, this MAC train a little bit, and I think the Buffalo Bills here can get past the UMass Minutemen -4.5 on
Buffalo Bills.
That's gonna be my lock. I know they're the Bulls people, but I'm just saying. That's gonna be my lock. 2.5 units. Buffalo -4.5.
Love it. UMass sucks. Buffalo's a pretty solid program.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I love it.
All right.
I'm going with a game that's probably got a little bit more curb appeal than a MAC game. And I'm just going off gut here on the program that I think is in some disarray here.
Okay.
And I'm going to and it's another rivalry game this week. And I'm loving the home teams in rivalry games. I just do. Colorado State is getting 7 points against Colorado. That was an 8-point game last year in Boulder. 8-point game. I think you guys. I don't know if you guys remember watching that game.
I do remember. Colorado State was able to throw the ball all over the yard, man.
Right, and they probably should have won the game. It was a really close game. It was 43-35. Colorado jumped out to that 3-0 start, which we all know was fool's gold, and it all got shattered the next week when Oregon put a spanking on that ass. Colorado State's not that good, but I'm sorry. When you got reports of the band's not allowed to play the fight song when you score a touchdown, and you got to play your son's rap song, and you got your kid, the star quarterback who is Potentially first round draft is a first round draft pick, is a potential Heisman finalist because he's really good. Leaving the field with 2 minutes to go in Lincoln, like this is where things start to shatter internally here. In Colorado State, this is their Super Bowl. This is their Super Bowl for this Mountain West team. I like them. It's way too many points. I don't know anybody. I don't know where I would give Colorado 7 points against a group of 5 team, and I'm certainly not doing it to the rival Colorado State in Colorado Springs. Give me the Rams plus the 7.
Like that.
And you know what? Here's mine. I like to go. I've hit.
Well, you're pretty solid, man.
I'm pretty good. I go with one, and maybe if I would just take my own advice and just pick the one that I put on, then I get it. Then I'd start having to call 1-800-GAMBLE. But because then I'm thinking I'm on the money, baby. Watch out. So I got Indiana over UCLA. It's a 3 points.
Oh, you got Indiana going on the road across the country, giving points.
Mm-hmm. I got IU over more than 3. They're
it's the only way Indiana can play in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, true. It's true. But I think UCLA is that bad, personally. So
I don't great. I
just like the toughness I think Indiana's got now with Cignetti. And just remember this. It's like, oh, who do they have? He has about 60% of all those really good players he had at James Madison. Yep. You know, really good line. Got some
41 transfers or something.
He's got some really good. Well, he's got a great wideout Surratt, and then Kalen Black, who's a tough as nails that they got from JMU. I think they're going to go on the road and win by more than 3 in the Rose Bowl. So I'm not saying they're going to blow them out, but you know what? Can't wait to talk about it next week on Faith and Duce.
It's a home dog in prime time, and you're going the other way. But I'm gonna not so fast myself. That shit doesn't matter with UCLA. Their crowd doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I was about to say it's also going to be dead. Like, they're going to have like 6,000 fans there.
They'll be at the Dodger game late,
and they're going to interview Deshaun Foster in half, and he's going to.
That's the reason why I didn't take this game. I actually looked at it, Ryan, because it is my favorite bet, a home dog in prime time. Indiana traveling all that way. I'm just not a believer in Deshaun Foster, man.
How could you get fired up for that guy? Like, there's no way he gets loud ever. Like he's
a really good football player. I don't know how good a football coach he is.
Like after the big win against Hawaii, you know, where they kicked a field goal late to win that game. He was interviewed and they were like trying to hype it up. Like, how does it feel your first win as a head coach? I'm very excited right now. I don't have words. Okay. Thank you. Like, could you imagine that guy trying to fire you up when you're getting your ass kicked at halftime?
No.
Like, come on, coach. I need something. Give me something, man. How about win one for the Gip or anything?
Like, right, where you got Cignetti who'd bite his own dog. Like, yeah. I mean, like
he'd kick his own dog. He probably, yeah, exactly. That's my point. Indiana, folks, Indiana, more than 3. All right, so we'll see how it works. Matt.
One last thing, if you tuned in, if you watched tonight, if you're on YouTube, wherever you're liking it, please go hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It'll help us out. Just smash that. It does wonders for the show. Thank you.
Yes, like it. Please, we're getting there slowly, Bill. We're getting closer to 800. But yeah, and thanks again for joining, Matt. We appreciate you, the Illinois Texan. Are you going to make it to any more football games this year? Or are you done?
You know what? I might just have one more up my sleeve, but we'll see what I can do.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you gotta let us know. You gotta let us know.
You'll definitely know.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So you can catch me tomorrow night outside the Gridiron. We're gonna talk about probably a lot of these games, just outright winners. We'll probably add a couple more. Any other Big Ten, or not Big Ten, but any other college football stories going on. We'll probably talk a little NFL too, because there's been a lot going on with NFL coming back. So with that said, have a great week, you guys. Swallow me out.
ILL.
I.